Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Freebeat, where I post new music-related content every single day. So if that sounds good to you, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Let's get started. A few videos back, we looked at recording extended pattern parameter locks with the pocket operators. Today, I want to bring the concept of extended patterns, if you will, to the OPZ. And what I mean by that is chaining multiple patterns to playback before recording over those in real time to essentially record longer phrases. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and hold the project button here, press play, and then press patterns 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then release. So now, even though there's nothing on them, just a blank metronome, it's going to play all 4 of our patterns. 4, 2, 3, 4, and then repeat. So on the OPZ, what we could have done is we could have just selected one pattern, then held shift and track to make that 4 measures long. However, we would lose a lot of the fine tunability, if that's even a word, in the measure, because it would take one measure and turn it into 4. It would stretch out all those steps into 4 measures rather than taking a single measure and just playing it 4 times. So that's what we're going to do. So this does use up 4 of our patterns, but it gives us a lot more flexibility and the ability to edit sounds. So let's go ahead and go to the bass drum track here. We're going to record over this in real time. So I'm going to go ahead and hold the record button, tap play. Now it's waiting for input. So I'm going to go ahead and play my bass drum pattern over the next 4 measures. Cool. Now we need to quantize it. So we're going to hold track and just keep spinning the yellow knob. It's going to continue to quantize even as it plays over those 4 different measures. That's pretty good. So if you couldn't tell there, it played 4 measures. We've got 4 different measures now of bass drum notes. Oops, there's the 4th one, which is going to allow us, I'm going to rechain them, to create the illusion of a longer pattern. Just, using 4 of our patterns instead of 1. But it's still very handy, and just like on the pocket operators, you can still do parameter locks like this as well. So let's go ahead and switch to the snare drum. We'll use those 2. It's kind of what I always use, but it sounds good. Let's go. That's pretty good. Had to delete that one. I kind of messed up in the second pattern. So we can see, yep, that's good. So let's go ahead and rechain them and then hold track and quantize. Cool. Now let's do the same thing for our hi-hat. So we'll go to the hi-hat track. I'm going to use those 2 like I always do. Make sure that these patterns are chained there. Hold record, press play. Let's go. And once again, quantize it over those 4 measures. Cool. Now we can remove our metronome. Let's listen back and see if we're going to have to do any cleaning up. Yep, so on pattern 4, looks like we're missing a hi-hat right there. So let's go ahead and put that in there. Now let's rechain 1, 2, 3, 4, and have a listen. Awesome, that is pretty cool. So now let's go ahead and make a little bass line. In fact, let's crank the tempo up. That's fun. Let's go ahead and make a bass line here. Something just, really basic, but that's okay. Let's go. Let's do it. There we go. And since we chained it over those 4 patterns, the bass line still continues to cycle through those 4 patterns with our bass or our drum lines. Quantize it. But I want to go to the last pattern there because I don't like this note. I want it to stretch out. So the last pattern will sound, there we go. Now we're going to rechain them. Anytime you go in and edit one specific pattern of the 4, you need to go and rechain them afterwards for playback. So let's go ahead and mess with some parameters now. I'm going to crank up our resonance here, make sure that our filter is set there, and we'll just mess with probably A and maybe B a little bit and maybe a little of the cutoff. So let's do that. So one thing to notice here is that every time the pattern resets, when it skips to the next pattern, all the parameters reset. So I don't actually know if this is going to work or not, but I'm going to try something a little different here. We're going to start at the beginning, and we are going to crank A and B up and just see where we're at. So the filter was high. So we need to mess with the filter in the last one here. And the resonance a bit. There we go. So there is a bit of fine tuning, but on a device that has as many options as the OPZ, we would expect it to be a little more complicated than on something as simple as a pocket operator. So let's listen back. So that first pattern is a little off. You can always hold record and do it in live time. There we go. That's pretty passable. Pretty fun at the end. See if we can mess with the resonance a little bit. Cool. So just like that, you can see we were able to put together a nice little passage, 4 measures long, but it feels a lot more like 1 measure. We just have the ability to edit a lot more. And the huge advantage of doing this is we can go in, of course, and edit individual steps on all of our bass punch-ins or our kick or our snare or our hi-hat, anything like that. I could go in and say, okay, on the 3rd measure, we're going to go to the hi-hat track, and this hi-hat right here is going to be pitched up for some reason and filtered down a little bit with the cutoff a little down. So now, if we chain them all, let's listen. We can hear that hi-hat right there just out of place. So it gives you a lot more control if you're not really making a full song, or if you don't anticipate yourself needing all 16 of the patterns per project. This is a great way to really expand the depth of your patterns. We could do this 4 times, and that's still a pretty decent track, especially playing with parameters in between all those. So you're not losing a whole lot. And of course you can do this. You could make a 2-measure long pattern. Hell, you could make an 8-measure long pattern. You could make a 16-measure long pattern. In fact, if someone out there has a 16-measure long pattern on the OPZ, I would love to see that. I'd love to hear that. That'd be awesome. I don't have the patience for that, I don't think. But yeah, just a brief tutorial on how to expand your playing. If you don't need all 16 of your patterns, you can use You know, 4 is a pretty common number to make an interesting drum track, to make a more interesting, you know, bass line, whatever. Any of the tracks on here can be utilized in this way. You could even do it with like the tape track or the master track. So if you guys enjoyed this little tutorial, be sure to leave a like on the video. If not, you can leave a dislike. That's okay too. Doesn't hurt my feelings. Just makes me try that much harder next time. Either way, be sure to hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. We are on a tear towards 1,000 subscribers. I've got new videos coming out every single day. There's a bunch of links in the description you can check out too. That's always awesome. Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.